able to speak English with a French accent is a great skill to have in life because 1, it's fun, and 2, why wouldn't you want to weird people out? At parties?
I'm Hector. I'm a psychiatrist.
Psychiatriste? Alors, you can help me.
Oh, I think not.
But I want a penis. A penis.
You mean happiness?
Everybody wants a penis.
Luckily, Vanity Fair asked Lily-Rose Depp, who's half French and bilingual, to teach their viewers how to nail a French accent in English. So let's see how that went.
Lily, for your surprise showcase, please break down how to do a French accent. Please reread the card in a French accent. Lily, for your surprise showcase, please break down how to do a French accent. Please flip the page. The red roses were fresh yesterday. The red roses were fresh yesterday. R's are distinctly very French. It's a sound that I feel like is only really used in French. Red roses. The first instinct is like doing a very strong R to sound French, like the red roses, or like the TH also is like people often go to like Z, which I feel like nuance it a little bit, but the R is for sure. The red roses were fresh yesterday.
Very nice. So speaking English with a French accent is actually a pretty simple concept. The key is to find out which English sounds don't exist in French, because you're going to want to pronounce those English sounds the French way systematically. Lily-Rose points out what's probably the most crucial French sound that English doesn't have, and it's the French R. The French R is essentially a dry gargle. So make sure you focus on the back of your mouth because that's where you're going to create a vibration with your vocal cords. But what's also very important to make a French R is to place your tongue against your lower teeth, and you want to keep it down, flat, and relaxed. That's completely different from the English R, where the back of your tongue is raised and the front pulls back. R. Gros bras gras. Gros bras gras. Gros bras gras means big fat arm in English, in case you're wondering. What you don't want to do is replace an English R with a rolled R, like in Spanish or Italian. That'll not make you sound French at all, and that would kind of defeat the purpose here.
Or like the TH also is like people often go to like Z.
She's absolutely right. The sounds the and th, for that matter, do not exist in French. Or rather, they do exist, but as a speech impediment, because that's a lisp. In French, we often call it avoir un cheveu sur la langue, which means to have a hair on your tongue. And the implication here is that it's a hair that's causing the lisp. So unless you have a lisp, if you want to sound really French in English, be sure to replace the and th with the and so. For example, the sentence, thirsty throats find things to drink, becomes thirsty throats find things to drink. And my thumb is too thick to flick this becomes my thumb is too thick to flick this. And yes, the French accent can completely change the meaning of a word without even trying. That's why it's not uncommon for people to look at French speakers like they're not all there when they struggle in English. But really, we're fine. We're just French.
Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? Where, notice that R, in the world is Carmen San Diego. The W's aren't quite as articulated, I feel like, as like the R's or the TH's. But I feel like what's interesting with this one is like a word like Diego, since it can be like it's a name as well. That to me is like one of the words that you can just kind of say like how you would say it in French, like Diego, because that's just the name. And Carmen, too, is like a name, so you would just say that how it is. Some words you can just say the French version of because that's what they would be anyway. Where in the world is Carmen and Diego?
Here what she's saying is a bit confusing. I'm not sure what she means by...
The W's aren't quite as articulated, I feel like, as like the R's or the TH's.
Because the W sound is exactly the same in French and in English.
Diego, because that's just the name. And Carmen, too, is like a name, so you would just say that.
I think what she means here is that Carmen and Diego aren't even English names to begin with, and they have their own pronunciation in French, which is derived from Spanish. So you can't really make them French because they're Spanish in English. I mean, there's a lot going on here. But what you can do is accentuate those names the French way. And the French always stress the last syllable of names, unlike English or Spanish. What that means is you make the last syllable a little longer. Never stress the first, second, or third syllable of any words. That's not a thing in French. So, Carmen, Diego, Lily, Lily-Rose, Lily-Rose Depp. Notice the letter O in French is just one sound. It's two sounds in English, O, and one sound in French, O. Diego, Rose. Accentuation rules are very different in French and English, and French is actually a lot more straightforward than English in that regard. So there's that.
Professor, if we heat the solid too quickly, won't it sublimate? Professor, if we heat the solid too quickly, won't it sublimate? I feel like the French have a sound for their pauses, or for our pauses, which is just kind of like, which I guess is universal, but it's very prominent in French language. Professeur, it's almost like you're looking for the other word, you're waiting for it to come to you, and so you're doing something in the interim. Also, what's interesting about this one is, notice the H in heat kind of disappears when you're doing it in a French accent. It would be eat, so it's almost like you're eating something. The H goes away. Sublimate, well, I think just the emphasis is more on mate than sub. In English, you would say sublimate, or I would say that. And in French, it's more like sublimate. Professor, if we eat the solid too quickly, won't it sublimate?
The thing is an excellent tip. It's a great way to sprinkle some Frenchness on your English while you speak. Saying is an even more common verbal tick in French than it is in English. That's because it's not just used to express hesitation. It can actually be added to the end of most words, almost like an extra syllable. And what it does is it makes French sound more natural, more casual, more conversational. So, for example, you can add an E to the end of a clause or a sentence, or you can also knock yourself out and say it after every few words, like I'm doing right now. And boom, you're French. Voilà.
Notice the H in heat kind of disappears when you're doing it in a French accent. It would be eat, so it's almost like you're eating something.
Okay, so heat becomes eat because the first letter H is not supposed to be pronounced in French. And for the same reason, my hair becomes my air, my head becomes my head, my heart is my heart, and my hand is my hand. I mean, I'm telling you, the French accent is good times.
Sublimate, well, I think just the emphasis is more on mate than sub.
Yeah, so if you read the sentence with a French accent, there are only 3 syllables that have to be stressed. And that's because they come right before a punctuation mark. I think there should be a comma after quickly, so we're going to add one there. Now, if you want to sound even more French, you want to make sure that your intonation goes up before every comma, and also at the end, of course, because it's a question. So, Professeur, if we eat the solid too quickly, won't it sublimate? And there you have it. Overall, I think Lily-Rose did a great job of covering the gist of the French accent. Without any preparation, it's really hard to teach something that you've learned intuitively. Like your first language when you were a kid. You've never really thought about it, and so you have to really think on your feet to break it down. So here are the takeaways if you want to speak English with a French accent. Number 1, do not pronounce the H at the beginning of words, and do systematically roll your R's the French way.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
Number 2, punctuate your sentences with a as much as you can, and feel free to play around with the sounds the and the, since the French often pronounce them the and ça.
It's better than everything. But no, it's funny because it's a funny experience.
And number 3, stress the last syllable of a name, make it a little longer than the other syllables. Carmen, Diego, and also stress the last syllable of any word that comes before a pause in a sentence.
Professor, if we eat the solid too quickly, won't it sublimate?
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to help this channel grow, and I'll see you soon.